What's the most shocking thing you've ever witnessed at work? This happened when I was 34, working at a financial firm downtown. I'd been there for years, but that night changed everything. My boss called me into his office just after 9 p.m. He handed me a sealed envelope and said, "Open this after you leave tonight." I was uneasy, but curiosity got the better of me, so I left the office, drove home, and when I opened it, my stomach dropped. Inside, it was a list of names, transactions, offshore accounts, and one line written across the top: "This is bigger than we ever imagined." The next morning, I called a lawyer, and that was the beginning of uncovering a massive fraud, one that implicated some of the top executives. And as I kept digging, I realized my boss wasn't just involved, he was the mastermind. At first, I thought he was trying to expose it. Maybe he felt guilty. Maybe he wanted protection in case things went bad. But then I noticed something strange. Every document in the envelope was printed recently, like hours recently. Some pages were still warm from the printer, which meant one thing. He didn't steal those files over time. He printed them the same night he gave them to me, almost like he knew something was about to happen. 2 days later, he didn't show up to work. No call, no email, nothing. By noon, rumors started spreading around the office. People whispered that federal agents had shown up at his apartment. Others said he'd fled the country overnight. Nobody knew what was real anymore. Then, around 3 p.m., security walked through the entire office floor and started confiscating computers. That's when panic hit. People weren't just nervous, they looked terrified. One of the senior executives literally locked himself in a conference room for almost an hour. And before leaving, he walked past me and said something I still think about constantly. He looked me dead in the eyes and said, "If he gave you anything, get rid of it." Then he left. I drove straight home after work and opened the envelope again. This time I looked deeper. Most of it was financial records, but near the bottom was a small handwritten note I hadn't noticed before. 3 words: "Check account 441. That was it. No explanation. Just that. I logged into the company system remotely and searched for the account. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Then I opened the transaction history, and my blood ran cold. Every few months, massive amounts of money were transferred into the account, then split apart into smaller transactions. Hundreds of them, different names, different banks. But the weird part wasn't the money. It was the descriptions attached to the transfers. Most just said things like consulting or vendor fees. Except for one. One transfer from 8 months earlier had a note attached accidentally, just 2 words: "Final payment." I clicked the recipient profile attached to it, and that's when I realized I recognized the name. He used to work at the company, same department as me, except he'd supposedly died in a car accident the year before. I actually remembered the email they sent out, condolences, funeral information, everything. But according to the records, someone had still been paying him months after his death. That's when I stopped thinking this was fraud and started wondering if something way worse was happening. The next morning, I tried calling my boss, straight to voicemail. Then, around noon, I got a call from a blocked number. I answered. No one spoke for a few seconds. Then I heard my boss breathing. Quiet, calm, and he said, "Did you check the account?" I couldn't even answer. Then he said something that genuinely made me feel sick. He laughed a little and said, "I picked you because you looked honest." And before I could say anything else, he said, "You should have burned the envelope." Then the call ended. That same night, police showed up at my apartment, not to arrest me, to tell me my boss had been found dead, apparently self-inflicted. Case closed almost immediately. But here's the part that never sat right with me. The time of death they gave me was nearly 3 hours before I received that phone call. And to this day, I still don't know who actually called me that afternoon, or why account 441 was permanently deleted from the system the next morning, like it never existed at all.